and this is going to be a demo session for this JMeter course. So first, a quick introduction about myself. So my name is Amit Gupta, and I'm currently working as a performance engineer. Total 6+ years of experience I have in core performance testing and engineering. So basically, I work as instructor in my part-time, and currently, as you know, I am currently working for Way to Automation. And there is a email provided to you, which is actually visible on the screen. So you can connect me directly on this email. Again, there is a Way to Automation email as well, which is JMeter@Way2Automation, which I think should be shared to you as a way in order to connect to me. All right, so this is about me, and let's begin with the today topics. So there are two things. First, about the course, that what we are going to discuss in this course and for whom this course is actually designed. So if you look at the about course, so this course is going to be a beginner to intermediate level course. Of course, there are a few topics that we will be touching in this course, and that will be covering advanced concepts. But being a live session, it's up to you that how expert you are, or how many previous knowledge you have in JMeter, so that we can deal in that way. So basically, if you have some specific challenges or some specific questions, that can be answered throughout this session or even throughout this course. So in total, we are going to learn about JMeter in details, what other features are, how JMeter is going to help in doing performance testing in terms of JMeter or as global performance. What are the things which is actually available as a global performance testing concepts like script and other concepts, correlations and data-driven testing. So all those things which is actually a part of performance testing, we are going to look at throughout this course. Now we are going to learn JMeter actually. So things we are going to cover as a part of JMeter. So we will be looking at correlation concepts in terms of JMeter, that how exactly we can do a correlation in JMeter. But understanding correlation concept will help you applying this concept on other tools like load or web load or even load runner. So we will be talking about the concepts, that what exactly correlation is, what exactly data testing is, right? So what exactly things comes into scripting, what are the things that we include in scripting, like timers and other things. So basically, we will be looking at the concepts and applying those concepts in terms of JMeter. All right. And in order to learn JMeter in detail, so as I just mentioned, that if you need to learn about how to apply correlation in JMeter, obviously you need a knowledge on correlation first. So these things actually comes under concepts under performance testing concepts. So we will be looking at the performance testing concepts in detail, like rates, what ramp up is, what ramp down is, right? How timers plays roles, and lot of things, right? Which will be a part of performance testing. Again, I believe that already is a course content shared to you. If not, I would say that just go to the Way to Automation website and a quick look. If you want, I can just refer to the course content, that what exactly we are going to cover in this course. So basically, about performance testing concepts, what are different type of performance testing, what is a performance lifecycle, threads, ramp up, and all those scenario related details, what are the different environments. So what actually later is, all right. And then in terms of features and what are the create the available, how to recording portion a test plan, and then we will be moving at the that how we can create a script. I believe all those. If not, I will be, if you already have an idea um, about a script, and taking you from a very beginning or from scratch those things, script and all. And then that group will, that you will be able to know king samplers and various other paths, configure pre and listeners, timers, different timers, logic controllers, different we'll try to cover the use cases for different type of what assertions maybe as well are there, what are the role of assertions, why we need assertions, how to apply assertions there, which will be in order to create all those details functions are performance test plan easily in order to performance test more easy, make up for, right? I will be in the JSR scripting, so we'll be looking area as well. Then about from non-GUI, more the benefit of running performance test plan through non-GUI. Then so just let me complete this, and then I will be just allowing you to 2-3 minutes. Be looking at the report area as well to have your are available uh, in reporting term like average, mean, throughput, all those terminology we will be covering. There are, again, uh, there is a plugin option available through which we get capability or the feature feature of adding some additional extra feature of few component advanced topics about fixed plugin management, and then current user scenario or fixed load scenario. So API testing, not going to deal into API test about API. So we're going to look at that how we can act. We are not testing, but we are actually create a performance test plan. If you have to do a web service test, it's all about those details. I mean, sessions get in the comments, basically throughout this course. So now, if I do, so I think problem about a voice break. There is a breaking in last minute. Problem just last. So problem persists. Is it uh, let me check my connection. I think it should be better now because I see my connection is performing well. So I'm not sure. Just is it still problem or it's fixed? All right, guys. I got that there was some problem with the connection that happened. So let me quickly just summarize that what I just discussed. So in the last 1 minute, when there was a problem happened about network, I was just going through the course content, that what things that we are going to cover, which is actually shared in this course content, and you can find a copy of this on the Way to Automation website as well. So basically, there are different things, or basically there are important things as a part of JMeter learning we are going to cover throughout this course, including all other concepts, right? So this is what I just talked in the last 1 minute. All right, so this was about what are the things that we are going to cover in this in this course actually. Let me go through the questions. I think all right, so I think we are now good to proceed with the topics. And let me know if you do have any question in between. So I have a question from Atul that I don't have any prior knowledge about JMeter. What are the pre-requirement to learn JMeter? All right, so I would say that in order to learn JMeter, you should be having experience in software industry, either on automation or on manual. So that will be easy in order to proceed to learn JMeter. So if yes, you do have some experience around 1 year of experience in software industry, that will be fine to learn JMeter. Yeah, so I got that you have 2 years of experience in manual, so it will be easy to you understanding and learning JMeter. So there is no such actually pre-requirement in order to learn JMeter, because we are just targeting here from the scratch. So we will be looking at the things from very scratch or from the very beginning. And also there is no such programming knowledge requirement, because JMeter is such an easy tool, and most of the things you can do on the UI, just copy paste kind of shortcuts and then dragging and dropping. Yes, there is a programming knowledge requirement in order to build your test plan at a advanced level, so from intermediate to advanced level. But that is also not actually a tough programming, because uh, the simple concepts like loop and variables concepts will be enough in order to build a good performance test plan in JMeter. All right, so there is a question from Rishikesh. So are you covering test script execution over cloud? So what exactly it is? So you mean over cloud, mean we are um, um, using some AWS servers like this? Basically, um, yeah. So if you are you just want to know about over cloud, so I would say that if you are able to create your script on your local system, it doesn't matter that where you run. You only need to have JMeter over there. And it is also recommended that you should not be running your performance test or performance script from your local system, because there would be a network latency. So it is also important part, or it's important to have your load generator. Basically, I'm using this term load generator, might be you are not aware at this point of time. So load generator is actually used as a machine where your from where your load is actually generated. And in this case we are talking about JMeter. So JMeter is going to be a load generator, or a load generator is actually a machine on which the JMeter is installed, and from there we are just generating our load. So your load generator should also be in a same network where your target application is. So if your target application is deployed on cloud, say in North America on AWS, so you should be having a load generator in that network only, in order to actually simulate the no latency behavior. So it's not a problem that you prepare a script in local system or somewhere else. You can simply copy that JMX file. It's a simple script with the test data, and you can just let have a JMeter instance run on that cloud or on Linux system or anywhere that you can simply run. Okay, so there. Um, So there is another question that why we need to go with JMeter, why not load runner? So there are a few things which should be considered, that why we should uh, go over JMeter and not the load runner. All right, just a minute. I'm getting this issue, I think, again and again. Just a minute. Just allow me a minute, guys. Just if it is clear now. Is it good to proceed? All right. So there are a lot of questions coming, and I think in order to answer those questions, there will be a lot of additional time will be required. I do have a question and answer session. I will try to answer those questions in question and answer session, and I think there are a lot of questions which are actually going to be covered throughout these coverage. So if I'm going to cover all these topics, most of your questions will be answered in that way. So I'm just going through these topics, and I will be looking at your questions in a later question and answer session. All right. So there is a quick question and a quick answer for that. Can we test database using this JMeter? Yes, obviously you can do a database testing directly using the JMeter, and it is also included in this course as well. You can use the JDBC sampler, and you can directly do a database testing, performance testing using this JMeter. All right, so let's move to this topic, and your questions are welcome. Just post your questions. I will go through the questions in the just at a later point of time. So what is JMeter? Um, so simple. It's a load testing tool which includes end-to-end um, what do you say? It's a kind of testing tool which provides you end-to-end scripting and performance execution and then reporting. So all these things, it's a complete IDE which you can use in order to do a performance test. And it's not a complete definition of JMeter, because this JMeter also includes different aspects as well. Apart from the things that we can do with the help of JMeter, like creating our script, debugging our script as a full IDE, it's provide end-to-end solution for doing performance testing in order to generate load. But again, it has some different benefits as well. If we talk about feature and benefits, this JMeter is actually free and it's open source. So first thing, that you do not need a license cost. If you go for another tool like LoadRunner or NeoLoad or WebLoad, those tools require licensing, and that is going to cost you. So this is one of the important point in order to going with JMeter, that with JMeter you do not need any license. Again, it's a Java based application, so it's platform independent. I would say that you only need to have Java set up on your machine, either it's a Linux machine or Mac system or Windows machine. That doesn't matter. You can simply run JMeter on any of the platforms. So this is also one of the important factor that why you should go for JMeter, because if you talk about other tool, um, those um, those tools are actually not available across all platforms. So this is one of the important point about JMeter. Again, if you talk about feature and benefits, because so JMeter is actually a tool which is easy to learn as compared to other tool, like if you talk about LoadRunner, and because this is a UI based tool, and most of the options available on click. So if you want some create a test plan, you can simply create a test plan by using your mouse and just by clicking here and there. So one of the important point, that it's simple and it's easy to use. No such programming language required in order to learn JMeter. Right, so these are the important points, and I think you can find more of the important benefits about using JMeter over internet. But these are the important things that you should also always uh, uh, keep in your points, that why we should use JMeter as compared to load runner or other tool. So again, next, if we move to the JMeter installation and setup. So as the pre-requirement, you need to have Java JRE in your system. So if you have JRE running, it's also not required to have JDK. It's only need JRE, Java Runtime Environment. So on any of the system, either it's a Windows machine or it's you are using Mac or Linux, if you have Java setup with proper path variable, so you can simply download JMeter and you can simply run the JMeter setup. And it's not actually a setup, it's a Java based tool, so it will be simply a pop up and your JMeter will come up. Meanwhile, I will be taking a question that does this course cover performance engineering? So no, actually performance engineering is not the part of this course. This course cover performance testing concepts, which will be a beginner to intermediate level course. So in this course, you are going to learn about JMeter and performance concepts, performance testing related concepts, but engineering is something different that actually includes profiling of the application, looking at the application behavior, and looking at the in-depth detail of CPU and memory details. So those portions is actually not included, and that is beyond this course. All right, so after completing this course, are we able to test? Definitely. If you complete this course, you will be able to create a script, and that script can be run against the target application. So basically, definitely you will be able to run a performance test against your target application. Are you covering a strategy to prepare performance testing? Yes. So performance strategy, I will be guide you through that. If you have an application, how you can look at the strategy of your application, what thing you need to consider in order to proceed with the performance testing, because and any of the application can have different aspects, and what should be the objective of your performance testing. So a bit on strategy we will be covering. What are the advanced topics mainly? So advanced topics comes if you are a kind of expert uh, in scripting, if you completely understand the end-to-end performance things, like how things are actually moving, um, and in advance there are things coming, like if you are going to learn about thread group. So there are a lot of things which actually comes under advanced topic in thread group. So we will be covering the basic concepts, but in advance you can just explore that to a different level, running your a performance test with a advanced scheduling, with a advanced scenario, with a proper timer, and then with a proper validation. So all those steps. Windows based application or web application. So basically in this we are going to, if you are just talking about the target application, the mainly applications are going to be web based application and not the Windows based application. We are targeting the web based application as a performance candidate. All right, so let me quickly just run this JMeter, and I do have a Java setup in my system. And what you need to just download, and I believe that you already should be having, if you do not, you can simply download and run this JMeter. So what you need to do, simply type download JMeter and go to this official jmeter.apache.org website. And the current version is 5.4, so here it is. 5.4.1, right? And you need to download binaries. The recommendation is to download the zip one if you are on a Windows machine, or if you are on Linux or Mac, just download this TZZ compression. So since running on Windows, I will be downloading this zip one 5.4.1.zip, but just a minute. But I do already have downloaded this Apache JMeter 5.4.1. So what I will do, I will simply get into this folder. Once you download this Apache JMeter 5.4, it will be in a zip format. Just extract that and keep that at any location in your system. Doesn't matter if you keep that in download or in D drive or C drive, doesn't matter. You can just extract that at any location. And if you get into the folder Apache JMeter 5.4, you will be having these files and folders here. So in order to launch JMeter, as I told you, you simply need JRE running in your system, and get into this bin folder. Get into that. On Windows machine, you simply need to just double click jmeter.bat. If you are on Mac or on Linux system, you need to just execute this sh file, jmeter.sh. Say, for example, if you are on Linux, you need to simply execute this jmeter.sh. If you are in this location, you can simply use /jmeter.sh. Right, and same thing applies for Mac as well. So just you only need to have a GRE and yeah, so GRE properly set up. So there is a concern about that. I have JMeter 4.4.0 and not the 4.0.4.0.1. So that's not a problem. In the next session, I will be downloading 4.0.1, but that will not be a problem because there is no such actually change. But for now, since I do have already downloaded in my demo session, it's not going to make any difference. All right, so we'll just double click jmeter.bat. Everything will be same. Not to worry about this 5.4 or 5.4.1. Nothing is going to be a difference. At least in this demo session, it's not going to make any problem. Same thing will be applied for 4.1 as well. All right, so let's run this JMeter by double clicking jmeter.bat. So if everything goes well, you will be getting this message about that you are in GUI mode and do not use GUI mode for load testing. There is a reason behind. We'll be talking on that area as well. But if you look at the behind this CMD, there is a window popped up, which is actually JMeter 5.4, which is actually the JMeter, right? And you might be wondering about this JMeter UI if you are at the if you are just looking at the very first time. There is nothing such initially added. No such things are available here. Only a menu bar and few buttons are there, this is a start button, which actually is used to run your and start your performance test. And if you are just launching this JMeter very first time, you should not be getting this um, this white theme, but you can just change your look and feel by getting into the option look and feel, and you can just choose this any of the light or contrast or as whatever suits you. But I just changed to this Windows, which is giving me a kind of an um, white theme, but you can just switch. All right, so just a minute, I'm taking a question. Uh, all right, so there is a question about integration with Selenium. Yes, so you can just configure your Selenium. Basically, Selenium integration can be configured with this JMeter. You can write Selenium-like script in JMeter as well, and you can run a Selenium script from this JMeter as well. So that integration setup kind of things and a quick overview on Selenium integration is actually covered in this course. Again, there was a question about the issue reporting and about the issue to management. So basically, in this course, we are going to learn about the concepts that looking at the result that if you look at the result of your run, of your performance run, how you can conclude about your result. So definitely you can share the HTML report to the management team and you can report the issue as well. But yeah, again, there are a few things you need to learn before that what actually issue is. It's related to response time. It's related to high number of threads. It's related to number of errors. So you need to first decide a criteria for your application that if I'm going to do a performance test for my application, what is my objective? What is my criteria? I want this performance run for my application. I will say that it is a successful run if I am able to run 100 thread for 1 hour duration. Is it the criteria? Or I will say that this is going to be a successful run if my response time is within 2 seconds. So you need to first decide a criteria, and obviously, if you are able to identify the criteria, decide the criteria for your application, you can just report that against the performance of the application to the management team. So that thing will be covered. That's not a problem. All right. So yeah. So now let's move to this JMeter. So here we have Apache JMeter 5.4, and I believe that you have already downloaded that, and you should be having JMeter running in your system as well. So
Amit,
this is
one question
about
here. Amit, sorry to interrupt
yeah.
you. This is Amit. So Amit, one question. Actually, I just downloaded the JMeter installation setup, right? But I don't see that JMeter BAT batch file actually in the setup file. So is it
All right.
mandatory to Java query installed in system?
No. Actually, you were not able to see that .bat because the file extension is hidden. So I think because if you look at the where I say that if you look at the view in your Windows 10, there is a option to just file name extension. So check
Yeah.
file name extension, or if it's hidden, you can look at the type. So what is the type? It's a Windows batch file type. You can simply run that. You might not look at the .bat extension if this file name extension is hidden.
Okay, okay. Yes. I got it. Now window batch file. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
All right. All right, so now let's move to the another topic. And in the meantime, I am giving all of you unmute permission. So just make sure that you have muted at your end and just unmute at a time if you have any question to ask. All right, now I have given all of you unmute permission. You can unmute yourself and just talk to me. All right, so now let's talk about performance testing. What is performance testing actually? All right, so if you go by definition, it's performance testing is actually done in order to evaluate the responsiveness and stability of the system at a particular workload. So actually performance testing is done to evaluate the responsiveness and stability. So what is responsiveness? Anyone on responsiveness? And there is another term, stability. And there is another term, at a particular workload. Hmm. Anything you want to say, Latha?
Hi. Actually, I have a question actually. Like, if you're learning like
Mm.
Selenium with Java, and if you're learning with mobile testing and REST your API, then in that case also we like it's like automation tester, then we need to learn the performance tester JMeter, or it's not required really in the market.
Okay, so it's up to you that you want to upgrade your skill to JMeter, but in most of the cases, these two roles are mostly separate. But I nowadays I see that most of the organization are demanding for a a engineer which is actually having a hand in performance testing as well. So they are looking for a candidate which is actually having a manual automation plus knowledge on JMeter. So it will be good for you in order to learn this JMeter concept so that you can actually fit those criterias. But in most of the cases, performance tester or performance engineer are separate candidates from this automation and manual candidates. Basically, Selenium and JMeter is actually two different components, but as I told that these
Mhm.
two are now merging somewhere.
Okay. And apart from JMeter, if you put into resume, we need to learn something load runner also, performance tester, or just JMeter is alone is enough into the market.
So nowadays, I would say that most of the organization who already having a license on load runner, they are migrating to JMeter. So if there is a demand on JMeter, it's only a demand on JMeter in that organization, because if they are hiring for JMeter, they are not going to involve you in load runner. That can be based
Mhm.
on the situation, but learning JMeter as a performance testing, it's most sufficient for any of the organization.
So in that case, nowadays no need to learn load runner actually. Just JMeter alone is enough into the market.
Yeah, because if you can actually look at the profile to be more specific, but in most of the cases, if it's a JMeter mentioned, it would be good. It will be a plus or a additional bonus kind of thing if you have a load runner. But I think JMeter is also a standalone component which is required only.
Oh, okay. And I have other question actually. Like when I see into the websites, Google search in JMeter, it says like we have like web testing and it's like API testing and performance testing. So like exactly which one we need to learn mainly actually into the JMeter part.
All right, so not to confuse about API testing or web testing. So these are actually performance testing itself, because since you are new in this domain, you are not able to identify that what actually performance testing or what API testing is. So this is actually a performance testing itself, because here we are learning about performance testing, and here I just mentioned REST API scripting and REST API testing. So it's a part of performance testing,
Hello?
not to confuse on that.
Your voice is breaking actually. Okay.
Is it clear? i
So in
i
that case,
can
we need to
just
learn, I mean, web testing also, and we need to learn.
no, it's a single thing. If you are learning about performance testing, web testing is included in that, and API testing is something that you need API script, because all these testing concepts will be applied on that. So it's not a different thing that you need to learn
Oh,
all these different things. Yep.
it's a whole package then. It's a whole package.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. Mhm.
All right, so
Okay. Thank you very much. Actually, I had
anyone is answering on this responsiveness, you're welcome. Or on stability.
Amit, this is Amit. Amit, I just trying to install the JMeter, right? So when I click on the exe, so I mean the batch file. So there is two options. The first is extract all. The second one is run. So which I need to click, run or extract all? Hello,
I'm sorry, so
Amit, I'm audible.
where are you? Just yes, yes, you are. So you have
Uh, so,
extracted, right?
yes, I extracted the folder that I downloaded, right? But after that, I click on the Windows batch file, right? I double click on the Windows batch file. Then I get a
Mm-hmm.
pop-up, and that pop-up have a option extract all, run, and cancel, right? So which option I need to
Again,
choose?
on
Extend
which
one or
machine
run?
you are, it's Windows machine, right?
Windows. Yes,
Windows.bat you
yes,
are
yes.
clicking. So simply run it.
Yes. So when I click on the run, so the CMD window is open, right? And there is an option, press any key to continue. When I clicked on continue, right? So nothing has
So
happened,
before
and
that,
that pop up.
yeah, so
Sorry.
before that, there should be some error. You should look at the error code, what actually it is. It's because of Java or something else.
Okay. Okay. Give me a moment. I just double check.
Okay, so what I can do, just let me go through the topics, and I will connect you just completion of this, just these topics, because I think that that can take a bit time in order to troubleshoot your problem. We'll be with
No
you
problem.
just upon complete topics, right? All right,
Thank you.
so
Thank
let
you.
me quickly complete this performance. Yeah, no problem. Performance testing. So, yeah, as per definition, what actually performance testing is, it is used to determine the responsiveness and the stability of your application at a particular workload. So, how I can actually understand it. So, let me give you an example. So, any of the website that you own, let's take an example that you are actually responsible for doing a performance test of a website, which is actually Flipkart. So simple, because we are dealing with Flipkart at day-to-day level. So, okay, so Flipkart is one of the website. For that, you are assigned to do performance test. So you are responsible in order to look at the behavior of your Flipkart website, that how my website is running when there are no such users, or no, actually there are no, a huge number of users are using the website, basically on off hour times, at night, at 2 o'clock, at night 2 o'clock, because this website is generally used in India. So if I talk about the IST 2 AM, when there are no such active load or active users on the website, how your website is performing, you might notice that the response time of your pages, or basically the when you load the page of your website, it goes smooth, so smooth. All right, and things are moving smoothly, all the transactions are happening smoothly, launch page is happening so quick, and search product is happening easily, you are adding product to cart, and all things goes smooth. So you notice the behavior there, and you know that there are few active users. I'm not actually giving you a actual number that how many users are there, but let's assume that there are few active users, because it's off time of your website. And now assume a situation when there is a sale going on, some big billion day or some special days sale going on in daytime. So what happened at that point of time, there are a lot of users actively using your website. That happens, and at that point of time, you will notice that your website is actually not performing so well when, as compared to the off period time. The performance of your website was so good at night, but during the sale, when there are a lot of users actively using, your website performance is not good. So basically, when you search for a product, earlier it was taking 1 second, and now it's taking around 5 seconds to 6 seconds of time. So basically, the performance of your application is degraded. All right, and that might be, there might be a situation if there are more users are going to use your application, so there are another more users added to the website doing this activity, searching for product. um, it's not a good thing, but that might happen, that your application is somehow broken and no user is able to proceed with the transaction of searching product or adding product, or basically not able to um, complete the process of purchase, and it's a business loss. So there the performance actually comes into picture, right? So of what the role of performance engineer or performance tester is, the role of performance tester at that point of time actually comes into. So performance tester or performance engineer will be a person who will be able to identify the maximum capacity of the application, that this is what the maximum number of user that my application can handle, right? And at that number of user, my application pages are going to respond within 1 second, or within 2 seconds, or within 3 seconds. So these are the number that performance tester should be providing to the management. And the management team, or the uh, actually the person who actually owns the application will provide the proper infrastructure, and we'll look at the improvement in the application, the improvement area, that I'm going to handle more number of users. So what things I need more infrastructure, I need more code improvement, and I need more RAM servers. So what things actually need, that can be decided. So basically, performance testing and performance engineering helps in order to identify the responsiveness and the stability. So stability is something that your application is not going to break, and it should run for a defined period of time, for 2 hour, for 4 hour, with that load, right? So these things we are going to find out through doing the performance test against the application, right? And there are different things involved in that. We need a tool through which we can generate that kind of load. Basically, we are going to simulate that kind of load in our target application. So that load is actually nothing but the number of users required, and we are going to use this JMeter in order to generate the number of users, or on a load on that system. And this JMeter is going to help in this way, generating load, looking at the responsiveness, that if we are hitting the search page or the home page, that then what is the response time or responsiveness of that page. And if we are hitting with the 100 number of or 200 number of users, then how my application is behaving. So those things can be achieved through this tool, which is actually JMeter. So JMeter is going to act as a load generator, or a load testing tool, that is going to help out in order to do a performance test. All right, so this is what actually performance test is, and why we need performance test. And I think you should now have an idea that what is the actually need or the role of JMeter in performance testing. Do I have any question? So there is a question from Aruna Jyoti, that can we capture metrics and measure the performance of our application? So yes, so there are matrices uh, at JMeter end, that obviously we are going to capture with the help of listener, like how many number of threads we are running, what are the response time of the pages that we are hitting, what is the latency, how many response code, type of response code we are getting, either it's a 200, it's something 400 is client side error, or it's a 500 server side error. So those matrices definitely we are going to look into, and we are going to consider those matrices in order to generate our report. So yeah, so client side matrices which are available in JMeter we are going to look into. Again, if you talk about the matrices, there are different matrices available at server side, which is actually not in the scope of this course. Okay. Um, can we do API testing with JMeter? Yes, definitely. You can do API testing with JMeter, and actually it's easy to do API testing with JMeter, one of my favorite. Load testing is only for online hosted programs. So Neha, actually, we are going to cover most of the concepts on online hosted applications. Okay, but there are different protocols available. If we talk about the database testing, so it's not a actually web application which is hosted online, but it's being used by the application. So um, it's up to the requirement, that what requirement you have, right? Like we do have um, SFTP server, TCP servers, and different servers like RabbitMQ and all those applications available. And for those, support is available. So a lot of support is available as a part of protocol in JMeter. But in most of the cases, we are going to learn the things as a HTTP protocol, which will be covering the hosted application. But it's up to the requirement. You can change your test plan in order to do a performance of other type of application as well. Do you show in practical? Yes, I am going to show you in practical how to look at the response time and all those details. All right, so I think, all right, guys, so what you can do, let me quickly share my email address. So there is the email address mentioned above, but you can just drop me an email on jmeter at way2automation.com. So this is the email address on which you can just send me the email, or actually your questions, which is actually not going to be attended here somehow, but I will try to attend all those. So there is a question that we are going to do performance testing or load testing, right? So it's a kind of all right. So just let me know that actually load testing or stress testing or endurance testing comes under the type of performance testing. So let me quickly talk about this type. So if you talk about the type of performance testing, so there are basically load testing, stress testing, endurance testing, spike testing, and you might find few other as well, but these are the important now types. So what is actually load testing? So load testing is a standard load which is actually which can be easily handled by your application, right? If you know that my application can handle 100 number of users easily, and with that there is no such stress on the application, because your application is happily serving 100 users, and that 100 users are actually getting their responses quickly, and your application is performing well. So if I talk about that 100 user is the standard capacity which can be easily handled by your application. So running with 100 users load, and I think that you might get a confusion on this 100 users load. So basically these are the number of virtual users or threads, which we say users in terms of performance testing, but in term of JMeter you will be getting a word threads. So we simply refer users or threads. That's not a difference here. So if I say that 100 users load is a standard load for my application, so running with 100 users, it going to be a load test, and somehow I am able to identify the maximum capacity of my application. So on increasing user, I found out that 150 is the maximum capacity which can be handled by my application. Above 150 users, my application is going to be broken. It's not going to sustain 160 or 170 plus users. So running with the maximum capacity of the application is known as stress testing. All right. So type of testing, load, stress, or endurance, is actually decided that how many users you are running right? If you're running with a maximum capacity, it's not in terms of user itself, it's in terms of responsiveness as well. So let's say responsiveness. So here as well, if I say that 1 second is the standard responsiveness of my application, and the 3 second is the maximum responsiveness capacity of my application. So if I am running a performance test with a maximum capacity, either in terms of users or in terms of responsiveness, that testing is going to be called as stress testing. And again, I know that 100 users load, or the responsiveness of 1 second is the load testing, but generally a load testing is done for 1 hour, or a maximum in some of the cases for 2 hours. So if I'm going to run this test for 1 hour or 2 hour, it's a load testing. But if I just convert this load testing duration, which is 1 hour or 2 hour, into a longer duration of 8 hour, 12 hour, or for 24 hours. So this testing is called as endurance testing. So notice that only changing the duration change the load testing into endurance testing, right? And here changing the uses from 100 to 150, which is the maximum, change the type of testing from load testing to stress testing. All right, so this is what the clear difference between these load, stress, and endurance testing. So this load and stress in most of the cases I found very confusing, but this is what the clear difference.
Sorry, Amit. Hi,
Yes,
Amit. Sorry, so what happens to the number of users for endurance testing? So how many on how many users normally this endurance testing will be done for so long?
so we should always proceed with the endurance testing at the load testing load and not the stress one. So 100 users load, which is a user load for load testing, should be done endurance with that user only, right? Because with the load of stress, which is the maximum capacity, you cannot run that for 8 hour or 12 hour or 24 hour. It should not be done.
Thank you, Amit. So what we are going to achieve with endurance testing, because load testing, if it withstands 1 hour or 2 hours for 100 users, so is it not the benchmark that it is going to withstand for so long?
All right, so what happened that generally we do a load testing for 1 and 2 hour, which is a good thing, which gives us a confidence that if there are 100 users, and it's the load generally sustained for a peak hour for 2 hour in most of these situations, like evening 6 to 8, morning 11 to 12, right? 11 to 1 or 10 to 12. So that kind of things happen. So we do quickly do a performance load test. But what happens sometime that you are not ready, that what happens when your application is having that kind of load for a longer period, around 10 hour, 12 hour. So in that case, what happens that there are different thing might happen with your application on a longer duration, like memory related issue, or on running long period, you might get some different kind of issues. But basically this endurance testing is done in order to identify the memory related things that running long of how your application is performing. So that thing is actually going to achieve using this endurance testing.
That means we are actually trying to make sure that application works through 24 hours with the maximum load, without any, not maximum load, a certain set of applicable load throughout that time. So the application is not breaking and it is working as expected. Am I right?
Yes, exactly. We should do endurance test, but not so frequently.
Oh, okay. So it is not a mandatory testing, as part of performance
I think
testing.
it's a part of performance testing, but it's a mandatory as per the requirement, and you should at least know the behavior of your application. So now it's actually come to the uh, where you stand and what kind of application you do have. If you feel that your application is actually a kind of application that runs for a such long period with that load, you should go. But in some of the cases that you feel that my application is a short time or short duration application, which is generally used for 1 hour duration or 10 minutes or 20 minutes duration, you should be good with load testing.
Thank you, Amit.
Actually, it's
I think normally,
as per the
yeah, thank
uses.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, one last question from my side. So normally these requirements, so when application has been given to us for testing, so we normally get the requirements such that, so this type of testing needs to be done as part of performance testing, like that we normally get requirements, or as part of, the performance testing, we're going to do all these tests. So normally it's a client requirement, or
Yeah.
is it mandatory as a performance tester? We're going to do all these tests for the application. Normally, how it works.
All right. Good question. Yeah. So what happens if you are in an organization where the performance testing is in practice? You should be getting a requirement document, or it's called NFR, non-functional requirement document, NFR document. So in that NFR document, the type of testing you should do should be mentioned. For how many users you should run your performance test, what are the actually objectives should be for your performance test, like looking at the number of users or looking at the responsiveness or looking at the stability of your application. So in that case, the endurance testing kind of thing. So these things should be provided to you by the architect team or by the senior developers to you as a part of NFR document. But if you are not actually getting that, you can ask for the NFR document. But what I found that in most of the cases that you guys are moving from automation or from manual to a performance testing domain, you will find that no such practices has been implemented yet. So in most of the cases, you might be the owner in order to decide these things, that what type of application it is, and that you should consider that should we go for endurance testing as well as per the uses.
Thanks, Amit. Thank you.
All right, and again, there is a type which is called spike testing. I think you should also be aware of that. So if you do not have any question, do I have any question? Just a minute. I think someone has not muted, so please mute. All right, and spike testing is something which is done in order to look at the sudden load of your application, that how your application is behaving if there is a sudden load at a single point of time. Let's say it's a flash sale is going on at 12 p.m. So at 12 p.m. a lot of users will be coming hitting your application. So a sudden load might break your application. So you need to prepare with that sudden load, that how your application is behaving if there is a sudden load coming into your system. How is the responsiveness? How is the the performance? And your application is going to sustain that sudden load. So in order to look at that behavior, we do spike testing. So many talking on these concepts and things. And again, I would say that being a demo session, it's quite not possible to cover all the aspects of performance testing in single just demo session, but I will try to cover most of the things. And let's create a performance test plan or design a performance test plan. So here we have JMeter 5.4, and here we have a test plan. Do remember that in a JMeter or in a UI, you can only have a single test plan. No more than one test plan can be just open here. So here we have a test plan with a name test plan, but you can rename it test plan hyphen demo. So this is one of the um, so simplicity of JMeter. It's here in the left side we do have things here like test plan we do have, and if you right click on this test plan and get into the add, here we have a thread users and thread group. So thread group, setup, tear down, these are the different type of threads actually we do have. So I'm going to add a thread group, and it's the element which is called thread group. And you can just click on test plan and look at the detail. In the similar way, you can look at the thread group detail by clicking on this thread group. So here's the name of this thread group. I can say thread group -1 as well. So I rename it and just click anywhere out and you will get it renamed here. So this is the related details of this thread group. What this thread group is actually, it provides us the users that we were talking about, number of users here, 100 users. So I need 100 users, I can just type here 100, but right now I do not need 100 users, but I will be managed with a, just a minute, single user. Just a minute, guys. All right, so here we have a thread group which actually provides us the number of users. And if I move back here, so there are two ways to design a test plan. One is the manual, and one is the way through which we can do the recording. So this recording is done in order to just to save this manual design effort, because designing a script manually takes a lot of effort and there are high chances of doing mistakes. So we'll look at the recording portion. I think I cannot cover that recording portion in today's session, but we'll look at the recording by using the tool, which is extension called JMeter extension, and recording can be done using this JMeter as well, with the help of HTTPS test script recorder. So that needs a setup, a proxy setup with your browser. So you can just browse the application for that you want to record, and your script will be recorded easily. So, but for now, I will be going with a manual designing of a test plan. So let me quickly create a test plan for this Wikipedia page, Wikipedia. So what I have to do here, I have to hit the Wikipedia. I think there should be the URL. And yeah, so let me hit the English version. So let's say that I have to hit this en.wikipedia.org/wiki main underscore page, right? So this is the main page of Wikipedia. And let's say that I have to run a performance test against this page, right? So there are two ways. Either I can just create a performance test plan in this JMeter manually, or I can do a recording. But for now, I'm going to simply create it manually. So look at the protocol, which is HTTPS. Let me simply Control A, Control C, paste it here. Okay, so this is what the protocol or scheme we have, and how we can actually create this as a test plan in this JMeter. So for that, I need a thread group as a first element, which is here. And inside that thread group, I need to add sampler HTTP request. Why this HTTP request? If you look at the sampler, there are different sampler like FTP request, all right? And there is a JDBC request for database kind of testing. And again, there is a mail reader and TCP sampler. So different type of protocol is actually different type of sampler is used based on the protocol. So in my case, I do have a HTTP protocol, so that requires HTTP request type sampler. So this is a sampler with the name HTTP request, right? And all these things are referred as element. So this is an element, which is a thread group. This is another element, which is a HTTP request, and which is of type sampler, right? So actually it's a sampler, and it's a HTTP request sampler, and I will be saying all these things as an element. So anything that you get on this test plan, right click add. So all these things are referred as elements. So it's a JSR223 preprocessor, it's an element. Timer, constant timer is an element. So initially, you need to identify that what element you need in order to create your test plan. So in my case, being a page running on protocol HTTPS, I need a sampler of type HTTP, right? So I have added HTTP request here, and here inside protocol, what I need to put HTTPS, because my website is running on HTTPS, and here on server name or IP, what I need to put en.wikipedia.org. Just copy it and paste it. And here in the path portion, it is going to wiki/main_page. So just copy and paste it here, right? So now it's as a sampler, which is going to hit this Wikipedia page with this path, with this protocol HTTPS. Again, it's a main page. So what I would say that simply copy, Control C, and rename this from HTTP request to main_page. Click anywhere outside. All right, and now you are done. So here I have added main page. So you have just noticed that in order to create a single page, I have manually added a HTTP request and then added these details. But these things can be simply done by using the recorder, either BlazeMeter or HTTPS test script recorder. So that will be easy in order to create our performance test plan. So again, if I have to move to the contents here, so I just click contents here, and once I click, the URL is actually changed, right? All right, so it's being changed to Wikipedia/contents, and there are different sections as well. So um, in order to run your performance test plan, you first need to consider that for what pages you are going to consider in your performance run. And if you look at the Wikipedia website, there are a lot of different pages, and it's not a single performance run that can cover the full coverage or full performance coverage of your application. So you should be having an objective of your performance test, that what section of your application you are going to cover. If I talk about simple application where a user comes into the application, log in their account, and then looking for their account section, and again, that user is free to search for any other product if it's a kind of application that provides such functionality. So if you just look, there are a lot of sections available to be considered as a performance testing part, and it is not a single performance run that can cover all the aspects of performance for your application. So you should be focused on a specific area, that what area you are going to target for your performance run. Let's say for that example, you are targeting your my account section. So what should be the pages you should consider in order to cover your my account section? First, launch page, then login into the application by providing a valid username and password, then getting into your account page, and then looking your orders, and then looking your profile, then updating passwords and all those details. So that a specific area that you can target in your performance run. So do remember that for any performance testing, you should having some specific pages as the target pages. So let's assume that in my case, I first need to launch the Wikipedia page and then get into the contents, and then um, clicking on the technology or different pages. But in this example, I'm simply going to have this single page, which is going to be a main page. But um, in order to just save time, or just in order to quickly demonstrate this, I'm not going to add another pages. All right, so uh, uh, just to um, just to keep in mind that in most of the cases, you should be having a predefined steps or a flow. We should be having some specific pages to cover. All right, so here I do have a single user, and for single loop count, and in order to run this test, I should be looking at the some details or matrices, which is going to be responsiveness, or the number of requests per second, or it's the successful response or not. Um, it's an error kind of thing. I need another element, which is which is called a listener. So you can add a listener on thread group level or at the test plan level. Just right click on test plan level, add listener, view results tree, right? So it's a listener that collects the matrices of this page, or basically the details available inside this on our test plan. So details related to pages. So here I have a page, main page. So once I run this performance test, the details will be collected through this listener, and the listener type is view results tree. And it's a listener that helps us identify the request and responses more clearly at a initial level. So you can just save this test plan by clicking save and just providing a name. You can save it anywhere, but you can run this without saving as well. So in order to run, just simply click start, and it's not saved, so it's asking me to save. For now, I'm just ignoring it, saying no. And if you look at the view results tree, and here if you look at the response time, it's a 5-second elapsed. So basically my test was completed in 5 seconds. And this is the main page response. If you click here, there are details available here. There are 3 tabs. One is the sampler result, where you are getting some summary kind of details. Look at the response code, which is 200. Response message is okay, and the response code is 200. Message is okay. So the reason it's a page is showing green, but somehow if you get some error, either client side or server side, this will be converted into red. Again, there are details available, that what was the latency, what was the connect time, and what was the overall load time of this application. So this page, so it was 5550 milliseconds. So all the details available here: connect time, latency. So in term of responsiveness, it's in milliseconds. So what this means is it's a 5.5 second it has taken in order to complete this page. Again, if you look at the request tab here, so what request we have sent, it's a get method request to this https://en.wikipedia.org wiki main page. No cookie was sent, and no such other data was sent. Again, there is a request body, request header as well. These are the default headers added by this JMeter. And now important section is the response data. So here is the response data of that page. Here we are getting HTML kind of response, but looking at this response is not giving us a correct picture that what this page looks like. So what you can do, you can change the view of this response into HTML. So here, if you just at this drop down, if you just click here, so there are different options to look at this response. So you want this response to be look into HTML mode. So just click on HTML. And here, this is how this page looks like in a somehow formatted HTML response, right? So it's the similar page, and this gives us idea that this is the main page, which holds link like contents and current events kind of thing. So this is what this page looks like, right? And here, the important thing about this page is that this page is loaded into 5 seconds, which includes the latency as well. And you might get this number not such high if you just run this test from the same network or from some cloud location where your application is, right? So but now this 5 second actually includes the latency as well, and this is the size of bytes that we are getting from this page as a part of response. So here, let me add another listener, and this is going to be the summary report. So there are different type of listener. One is the view results tree, summary report, aggregate report, and all those different listeners. So here we have summary report, and if I now run this test by changing the loop count to 5, so what will happen? This one thread will repeat this page 5 times, and I will be getting the details here, that how many samples I have completed, what was the average response time of that samples, and other details. So similar details will be available here in view results tree. Let me get back to this text mode. And if you want these results to be clear, you can just use these two buttons, clear and clear all. So clear all will clear all the listeners available in this test plan. All the listeners data will be cleared by using this clear all. Clear all, and clear will only clear the result which is actually selected. So clear, just to clear. And now run this test by saying no to save. Do remember that we have now changed it to 5 times. So what will happen? It will be a 5-time loop. So first loop completed, second one, third, fourth, and here the fifth one is also completed. So total time completion is 12 seconds. So looking at the each page detail, you can use the view results tree listener, but looking at the summary report, you can use a different listener called summary report. So here we have a total 5 sample with an average time of around 2.5 seconds. Out of these 5s, the minimum time taken was 1.1 second and the maximum was 4.1 second. There was no such error, 0% error, and the throughput is something that at what rate we are hitting this page. So this main page we are hitting at a rate of 24 per minute. So if we run this test for a longer period by specifying the duration, let's say um, for 300 seconds, which is actually 5 minutes, by changing it to infinite. So infinite change, if you change it to infinite, this duration will take charge and it will run for 300 seconds. So what will happen? You will be hitting this application at a rate of 24 per minute for 5 minutes, right? And now you can just look at the average of the pages, that what average you are getting any error kind of things or not. So a lot of details to cover in this actually in this single test plan itself. There are other things to look into, that the pages that we are getting is actually proper or not. So you can validate that through the providing assertion and lot other things in order to build a complete performance test plan. So those are the things we actually need to look into. But at this point of time, I have just created a simple test plan by using a single page and running that for 5 iteration. You can just try this running for infinite loop and for 300 seconds. So what will happen? It will complete. It will be running for around for 5 minutes, hitting this page into a loop. Once that 5 minute completes, you can look at the result of that, what actually the response time and at what rate, if the rate is changed or not, something. So any other question we do have on this test plan, or any other question you do have?
So, Amit, a question from my side. So basically, we are not actually writing anything. Just we creating the tool. Already, the information is available where we are just configuring the parameters based on the based on the inputs, right? So how many
Yes.
users needs to be how many users needs to be tested for how long and all that. Just we are actually giving the parameters in those respective fields and running the test plan, right? That is what I see from
Yes,
this.
exactly. Yes. So
Okay.
at a high level, you will, in most of the cases, we are going to use JMeter, and that's the reason I mentioned that there is no such programming required in order to run a performance test or actually build a good level of performance test. Yes.
Okay, so this is So this is the report, right? So do we have showing in a graphical view this report? Do we have any such things? I'm not aware of these things. That's why I'm just raising.
Yes, actually there are, if you look at the listeners, so all the reports are covered under the section listener or the element type listener. So here we have aggregate graph as well, right? Response time graph. So if you add this response time graph and if you now run by just Just clearing the no such value. All right, but just clearing the previous data. So you will get just a minute. All right, so you will get the data in response time graph. Again, there are what I say, there are different listeners available that can be added with the help of plugin manager, which will help you in order to just look at the visual thing, that how your threads are actually performing, what is the response time of each page. So that can be done. Again, there are I think that needs something different setting. Again, there are HTML report you can generate with the help of tool, generate HTML report, right? So this will generate a HTML report for you. And there are a few things to learn, that you can write this data into a file, and with the help of that file you can generate a HTML report that will be giving you different details, that what was the response time of each page, was error, so in a kind of graphical representation, and that report can actually be shared with a different or respective team as well.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you.
All right, and the mean time response time graph, and this graph basically, um, the graphs available through this plugin manager. If I just open my JMeter, which has the plugin installed for additional graphs, so you can quickly um, look at the different graphs. So meanwhile, any other question by the time I'm just presenting you some different graphs. So look at the simplicity of JMeter. So here we have a thread group, all right? And what you can do, simply you can just copy it, just get into the another JMeter, right click, and then paste it. All right, so I think there is a compatibility with the previous version, but just a minute. What things I do have response graph here, response type graph. It should not be a compatibility with a base things. Base class incompatible. All right, I think it's a compatibility issue with a 5.3 and 5.4, but that can be later fixed. Well, I'm not going to get into that, but let me show you that what other graphs are available. What is latency, and running in CMD mode, create a report in CAP format or HTML. So running in CSV mode, you can create your report in HTML format. That's not a problem. You either run on CMD or on the GUI mode. Latency is something that actually, in terms of JMeter, if you talk about the latency, so here at view results tree, at the sampler, the latency is 3350. So what this means is the time when this JMeter start this request, and this request is sent to the Wikipedia server, right? And Wikipedia receive the request, and the response is actually sent back to the JMeter. So moment you get the first byte of the response, because if you look at the size in byte, it's 81 KB around, but the moment you get the first byte at the end of JMeter received, the latency time is actually calculated at that moment. So latency is something that sending request from client to the server, processing of that request, and getting the first response back. Till that time, latency is included. And once you get the all bytes received completely at the JMeter, that is actually included in load time, which is around 5.4 seconds. So you can say that my first response byte was received in 3.3 seconds, but in order to complete all the bytes at JMeter end, it took around 5.4 seconds. All right, so now I was just talking about the listener. So if you look at the test plan add listener, there are listeners available like active threads over time. So if you look at the JP add GC, which is actually not available in my another version because I have not added plugin into that. So these active threads over time, bytes over time, connect time, hits per second, response code per second, latency over time, response time over time. So there are a lot of graph listeners available, right? You can actually make use of these graphical listeners in order to create your reports in a graph format. Okay, so what other things I do have? Any other question? Okay, so let's talk about the duration of this course. We will be covering this course in around 8 to 10 classes. Each will be around 90 minutes. And this course is going to happen on each Saturday and Sunday. So a total of 8 to 10 classes. And this is actually a course on performance testing using JMeter. And this course does not include API testing. We are going to learn that how we can create a test plan for API testing, but not a detail or a separate session on what APIs are, what REST APIs are, and that's a different course which is not actually included in this. There's a question about what are listeners. So listeners are elements in JMeter which actually collects the data of samplers, which actually provides us the matrices, and we look at the matrices and we look at the result of this test. So basically this is the summary report which is a listener, and that helps us looking at the detail that this main page happened 14 times and the average was 2.6 second of these 14 samples, and there was error as well, right? The error was 7%, and if you look at the view results tree, this was the error and what that happened. So the response code SSL exception socket closed, so something has happened in that, and the no HTTP response was received, so this was an error. So this is what the role of listener, that you can look at the detail of the test, that what has happened into the test, what are the matrices available, you can look at the listener only.
So, Amit, one question, Amit.
Yes, please.
Amit? Yeah, so basically, so it looks like it's more or less services we are testing with respect to the performance, like, the response and stability aspects we are doing, right, on services. So we have a SOAP UI tool as well, right? So so that tool as well, the tool also allows us to do load testing, etc., right? So then what is the difference between these two? Means, why do we go for Geometer? Because in SOAP UI, normally it is covering all, normal services testing plus it is supporting load, etc., right? So, am I making sense? Because I'm not sure exactly what additional benefits Geometer is giving than SOAP UI.
Right. So SOAP UI is basically used in order to do a validation, and I think the load support is also added, but that is actually limited to the API and not for the other protocols like HTTP request and JDBC request, FTP or SFTP. Again, there are different other things which are available in JMeter, like scenario creation kind of things. So that number of users, or if you talk about the concurrency. So those things, if you actually get into the detail of performance testing, of creating a good performance test plan by applying all the different components of JMeter, like assertions and then um, timers kind of thing. So it's quite easy, and it's the complete thing which has been which is actually in market from a very long time, which has been used by other industry, and it's actually a complete load testing tool, while SOAP-UI or other Postman kind of thing is basically used for a single validation, or just a REST API validation kind of thing. So those tools are not actually providing um, different things like correlation and data-driven testing so easily that this JMeter is actually providing to you.
Thank you, Amit.
Right, and yeah, and you will also find most of the things which is actually here given in this JMeter as a part of element, which has been actually created keeping performance testing in mind, right? So we'll find most of the additional supports in plugin manager for other testing applications. um, if you are going to test other applications as well, that is easily can be tested in this JMeter.
Thank you, Amit.
Amit, you've shown some errors in the listeners. So, for a performance tester, what would be the next step when they receive some errors?
All right, yes. So look at this error. So actually it's a socket closed, right? So what has happened, somehow no HTTP response code and this socket has been closed. So first you
Mhm.
need to ensure that this has now you should be having two options. Either this was happened because of your application, the application has closed the socket, this client, this JMeter somehow has closed the socket because of network disruption. So you need to be first ensure about this error by just repeating this test multiple times for a quick
Mhm.
validation that this is happening or not, right? And if you found that this is actually a problem, and in running a 30 minutes test or 1 hour test, this WebSocket, this socket close error is happening so quickly, you need to report this to developer, and then you should be considering looking at the log of the application, that what actually happening behind the application. So your first responsibility is to report this to the developer and present this data, that running a 30 minutes test, we are actually getting 10% or 15% of socket related socket closed error. If this is because of number of threads, then might be the right team is the developer and the architect to look at that detail.
Any
So,
additional information which needs to be provided along with this error details?
So looking at the client side, I don't think that you should be, if you do have access to the server, you do have access to the log, you can look at the log, what type of
Mhm.
server you do have, right? And if you have those kind of details, you can look at the, behind the application. And if you find additional details, you can simply just let the developers know. But raising flag at the initial level with this error will also be a good thing from a performance point of view, that this is actually happening. So at least expectation and the things will be in mind, that this is a problem and this can be considered as a fix from developer or from the architecture point of view.
normally when we do this non-functional testing, Amit, so once the application is ready and it is going to be deployed into production time, or normally at what stage normally we perform this testing?
So if you look at the performance life cycle, which is a part to cover, so first the development happen, right? And then a developer do a sanity at their label, and then this is provided to the QA team in order to verify the functionality of the application. And post QA, the actually performance testing comes into picture, right? So this happens post QA qualification, and this happens pre-production. This is the uh, place where performance testing comes into picture. And you should always test an application which is qualified by QA, and upon the performance testing is done, that is deployed to production. This is what the process should be followed, but where the performance testing is missing, the most of the cases upon QA qualification that has been deployed to production.
Cool. Thank you so much, Shani. Thanks.
So Amit, the example which we taken is like just opening the Wikipedia site and see the request and response of the application. Suppose just an example,
Right.
like if some form information is there, like after opening a main page and then we landed into a form, then what other criteria we need to take in order to check the performance testing of that form or that page? I mean, like we landed into the form page. Now, do we need to submit those form information? Then we need to submit and then need to see the results, or like what is the exact steps that needs to be followed to check the performance of that particular form page?
All right. So since this point was missing, let me quickly cover this performance versus functional testing. So um, I think you already have a functional aspect, knowledge on functional aspect. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens on functional aspect? So if it's a page, if I just search for cat here, and if I hit enter, so if let's say that I am validating the search functionality. So here I put cat and then hit search. The response is coming. All right, let it come. And yeah, so I got the cat results. This page look good to me. So here my functionality is actually fulfilled. My search is working, and I search for cat and I'm getting a proper response. But this is functionally qualifies this application. But we have not noticed that how much time this application has taken to load the cat page result, right? So functionality is something that the application is functional, right? But apart from that, there are non-functional characteristics like this page is loaded in how many seconds, right? And um, actually, if there are multiple users are loading this page is actually loading in that second or not, or if that page is broken, right? So those things comes into non-functional aspects. And apart from that, responsiveness and stability, there are different functional aspects as well, non-functional aspects as well, that loading this page 100 times, are we getting some percentage of error as well, right? So those
Mm-hmm.
things comes into non-functional aspects, and you need to look at that aspects only, right? So if you talk about the form example, you should consider a end-to-end flow, right? And you should be looking at the responsiveness and the number of users handled on that form when users are just hitting the submit button by just providing some form details. So what is happening at that point of time? You should not be looking at the kind of CSS things like the buttons are actually scattered, or the the contents are squeezed kind of thing. So those things are not UI
Yeah,
related
yeah.
things, are actually not considered in functionality,
Right. Those
non-functional
comes
actually.
under UI functional testing. I'm just curious to know, like, to test the form performance, do we need to fill those information and then need to click on the submit button to check the request and response
No.
of the application, or it's just like
Right, right.
we just landed into the form page and see what is the performance of that particular page?
No, so actually it's it's a come under the things that you are testing. So if you just there are two aspects actually. So if you get on any page, that's a different page. So if you just hit the launch page, so at launch page there might be a user login and password form, right? But that is launch page itself, it's not a login page. When you put the
Mm-hmm.
login detail like username and password and hit the submit button, then that's the login page, right? So what
Mm-hmm.
page you are considering, that are two different pages. So you need to consider the pages first, include the pages, that what pages you are referring. If there is a page which contains form, so that's a only form page, and then once you submit that form, then you land to a different page, so that's a different page which includes the submission, right? And
Mm-hmm.
things does not move the way you are just understanding that you are just clicking on a button kind of thing. Actually here, if you are just aware about the postman and all, we submit something with the help of post method by providing a detail as a part of form data that happens at a single point of time. We simply hit a URL by providing some details like username and password with the help of post method, right? So we simply do that way in this JMeter. We are not actually moving through UI, but we are just moving through pages with a type of method like get or post or put something.
Mm-hmm.
Amit, sorry to disturb
Oh,
you.
thank you.
Just I pitch in. So I think this activity is happen through recording session as well. When we record any session, I
Yes, yes,
mean, correct. So I
yes.
think we don't
Hmm.
need to use API or I mean what you said AP what you said earlier.
Um, I do not actually know that what you are referring. So
No. Actually,
methods kind of thing.
yes, yes. So basically, I think now you are talking about the manual designing thread, right? If we are
Yes, yes.
using
Yeah, right,
the
right.
recording, I think we can easily test that form activity, correct?
Yes, yes. So if you use the recording using any of the tool like BlazeMeter extension or using this JMeter uh, test script recorder.
Yes,
So
test.
once you navigate through the pages that you are including in the test script, those things will be auto converted into post methods and form data kind of thing. So yeah, so that will be easy when you just go through the recording mode. You need not to just
Correct.
mention the methods and all these pages details, right? Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. Thank you so much.
Right. So any other question I do have? Um, I might
Amit,
be
Amit,
missing a few of the. Yeah.
Amit, I had a question. So, whatever you're covering, these things, so are you going to give a demo of one project alone, like integrating all these, like samplers, listeners, and whatever you have taught? So, all these will be integrated and you'll be doing a project, or how we are like on a daily basis? Say you teach a sampler today, and the next class you teach me a listener or something. So, how I will
Right.
integrate in my project. So our main goal would be like how we are going to integrate this in our project. So how much we can do it after your demo, after your sessions, say 10 to 12 classes you are saying.
All right.
So after 10 to 12 classes,
Uh,
how much I can integrate in my project. So our goal is ultimately that thing. So I want to understand
all
how
right.
much we can do.
So all right. So not to worry about that portion because um, what we follow here, actually what I follow here. So um, I will be providing you a local application which you can run in your local system, and I will start building a test plan hitting that local system, right? We will take the live examples as well, like we have taken here the Wikipedia example. So I will be having a test plan saved, and in that test plan I will be now keep adding the different elements like listeners assertions, timers. So you will be having a complete test plan, and with a combination of different elements, different thread groups, and different listeners. So at a whole, you will be having a test plan, having a good test plan with all the a complete kind of elements that is required in a in a complete test plan. So we will be following that way.
Okay. Thanks, Amit.
Uh, Hi,
All right.
Amit.
So I think we are, yes.
Um, um, what protocols you should you recommend that we should learn to understand and perform load and performance testing?
All right. So in most of the cases, you will be dealing 90 to 95% with the HTTP request itself. Other protocols are actually requirement basis, and those are very rarely used. Like if we talk about SFTP, so SFTP is a very rare used protocol, and it is used in certain cases if you do have some SFTP to test, right? But 90% to 95% of the uses will be for HTTP request, and we will be covering HTTP request in throughout this session. There is a JDBC request in order to complete database testing. So that is a separate session we will be covering, but start with the HTTP request only.
Okay, and is there any use of if we learn about network related protocols so that we get better understanding of the results and
No, actually,
things?
yeah. So see what happens if you learn the HTTP, right? So there is no such difference looking at the result of this view results tree or summary report. Either you look for the HTTP protocol or network related protocol. That's not different. Even the scenario and the thread groups are going to behave similar way. Doesn't matter what protocol you keep here. So that's the reason if we learn about the HTTP request, and if we able to identify the things that how things are moving with the help of this HTTP request itself, then you can implement or you can use any of the other protocol as per the requirement, right? You only need to
Okay,
understand the concepts and another way that things are moving in this JMeter.
okay, thank you.
All right, so if I miss any of the question, I would say that please just drop me a mail on this JMeter at way to automation, because there are a few questions that has been actually missed, I believe. Okay, so I think we are good, and I have a minute. If I have any question, we can have that. Otherwise, I will be closing this session, and we'll look for the your questions on this email address.
Yeah, sure, Amit. Let we install JMeter and do a hands-on, and I'm sure then we must have some queries to ask you to get the more clarity about it.
Sure.
Thank you so much. It was a nice session.
Yeah, so Amit, so
All right,
when are
guys.
you, sorry, Amit, when are you planning to have the actual sessions, means next batch on this?
So it's going to start coming Saturday.
Okay. So
All right.
normally is it
And
going to
any
be
other
like,
details?
yeah.
Yes, please.
So are we going to get these details of the next session, or on what dates are we going to have these sessions for the batch? So we're going to get the details, right? Are we going to get an email, or should we actually contact you guys directly through this email? Like, what is the point of contact?
All right. So I believe that all of you will be having email with a recording of this session and the detail of the coming batch, which is going to be start with the Jan 6 coming Saturday, which will happen Saturday and Sunday. So you will be getting a mail from Rahul, all right? And any other query related to course about fee and other details, you can just reach to the way to automation, Selenium at waytoautomation.com. I think that already you have the email address through which you just received the invitation. You can write to that email. And any other query related to this session, you can just write to this JMeter at Way to Automation.
Thank you, Amit. Thanks for the session. It's nice session. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Amit.
guys. So thank you all for attending. And with that, I'm just closing this. All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Amit, for your time.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, guys.